So the time period is for Rococo France from the 1600s to the 1750s, although Rococo goes beyond this time period all the way to the 1780s. Starting off with colors and textiles, silk weaving was used for luxury items, while wool was most commonly used because weather was colder in France. Starting off with production in France for textiles was more domestic, set through the king and other royals. Um, it only it helped It helped save the economy of France during this time and provided many people with jobs. Silk was commonly produced in Lyon, and wool was produced in a different city. Popular colors were pinks, blues, and lavenders, all in pastel colors. Luxury fabrics were considered silk and brocades and damask, as well as satin, which was used by nobility and aristocracy. While today's textiles, more natural fibers are still considered to be more expensive, and polyblends are our most common use fibers. On top of this, we have much faster production styles due to technology. For undergarments of the Rococo era, women wore stays/bodices, which gave them a smaller, accentuated waist. Chemises and stockings were also worn, although underwear was not worn because it was considered masculine. Pantaloons were also gave shape to a dress, and this was more for wealthier women. Um, Maids were sometimes allowed to wear them because that's how much they showed their power and status. For accessories, we had powdered wigs and regular hair. Different hairstyles would vary on what time it would be in the time period. And hats were not necessarily worn just because the accentuation of the hair, but um, there were headdresses extravagantly too. For men undergarments, we have a long length shirt that went down to the knees. Men had drawers, but they didn't wear them often because the shirt was so long, so they just relied on that. Stockings were also used when stockings were worn over their breeches. That was early in the time period, and then later in the time period, stockings were worn underneath. For accessories, they had big wigs and powder wigs. White wigs were considered more expensive and were worn by wealthier men. For undergarments of today, we have more access to clothing options and fabric options as well. We don't need to change them as often anymore because people from the Rococo area did not believe in bathing. For women undergarments, instead of corsets now, we have more shapewear to accentuate the waist. On top of this, there are multiple different options. And undergarments necessarily don't relate back to women's status in society, and women are allowed to wear anything they want now. For accessories, we have big bags now because back then they had big pockets that they could put underneath their pantaloons. For men, same thing, more options in undergarments, wear t-shirts and different types of underwear, as well as accessories. Men wear more accessories now and have um, accentuate that more. And big wigs are not shown as a status symbol. For gender roles in the Rococo area, women were subordinate to men. They were believed to be emotionally driven and lazy, as well as materialistic, and that correlated with their dress and their big poofy dresses. While men were basically allowed to do anything they want, they were aggressive and bold and believed to be smarter than women. Now, for women, the wealthier she would be, the more time she would change throughout the day. Lower class women couldn't afford more poofiness and the elaborate fabrics. They would wear aprons instead, while the middle class and the bourgeoisie would usually copy what the wealthier woman would do. While men wore three-piece suits, they had formal dress and regular dress. Regular dress was just casual, it can mix and match, while the formal dress was usually heavily decorated and could not mix and match. And they also had leisure wear, which was only worn at home. So for today's gender roles, women have more freedoms and the lines between gender are being crossed. For men's dress, it's not so formal, and both genders don't have to change for different times of the day. Men do not wear heels as often, nor do they wear suits every day. For women, they don't have to stick to dresses, as well as the lines for gender clothing is being crossed. For fashion influences in the Rococo era, we have Queen Marie Antoinette, who was constantly shown in fashion plates, and her fashion was described as the law. She was also considered a fashion victim, who is someone who keeps up with the fashion trends, and that's their only job. Another social influence are fashion plates and fashion magazines, which cater to international and domestic clients. For today's fashion influences, we have social and political movements such as Black Lives Matter, the banning of books, and the genocide of Palestine, which gives us the scarf that shows support. Social media also gives access to anybody in the world for current fashion trends and makes them move even faster. For movies and music, musicians have a massive influence on what their fans wear, and shows such as Euphoria allowed for expression or deeper exploration for makeup looks and outfits. And these are my sources.